what's it like to be a tenant and a landlord in 2024? Today, I'm joined by Paul Shamplina, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Hamilton Fraser and also MD of Landlord Action. Paul, you deal with an awful lot of landlords, letting agents, tenants. You have your own TV show. You really are at the front end of the industry without being a landlord or a tenant or a letting agent. What's it like to be one of those in 2024? Talk to me.
Okay, how long we got? Right, okay. So being a landlord now is completely different. It was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Being a landlord now is this investment a good investment? First off, how do I source a property? Am I planning it? Am I business planning it? What are my numbers? Of course, the biggest challenge now for landlords is going to be rates, interest rates and obviously borrowing. That's the biggest challenge. And Section 24, am I looking to get an SPV and incorporate? How many properties am I looking to go on? What type of journey? And then how can I manage? How can I asset manage? So being a landlord, the problem we've got, and I said this at the NRLA conference when I was on the stage on the panel session, is the word, and it really winds me. I suppose it doesn't help, Chris, that I'm on a program called Nightmare Tenants, Slum Landlords, which, is the word landlord is seen as a dirty word. Landlord. I own the land and I'm a lord. It's wrong, it's out of date in 2024. I'm a housing provider and my tenant is the consumer. Okay, that's what we should be using. So the rhetoric and the language, and it doesn't help when landlords are vilified by tenant organisations like Generation Rent and Shelter, because they need landlords. They need to work together, and I've tried to reach out to them, but to no avail, to try and have some decent dialogue. Being a landlord can be really satisfying, especially you've got family or helping, whatever. Housing someone on benefits and universal credit, family, whatever. Statistically, they stay in the property longer, look after it better, but people don't know that. But everything's driven by the pound note. So as a landlord, I would turn and say, well, actually, it's a good business because you're getting more rents than ever before, and your properties are being less empty to the smallest amount than ever before. The void periods are really, really low. So actually, it's good being a landlord, depending how you leverage. But do you have an exit strategy? So that's as a landlord. And of course, tenant demand is through the roof. Being a tenant is really challenging. We know that, as I said, being a tenant, and the average property in London is $2,600 a month. That's a lot of money. You've got to be some serious bucks, Chris. Then, of course, you've got your council tax. Then you've got your living expenses. And on average, a tenant's paying 35% of their wages. And then there's an affordability issue as well. And that's why when it comes to, you get rent to rent and guaranteed rent or room lets and HMOs, that's why people have to have room lets, because they can't afford single dwellings. But as a tenant, I think the offering to tenant needs to be better. I think the rhetoric and the conversations and the language and the education, what landlord sits down with a tenant on their tenancy agreement and explains all the terms of the tenancy? Do agents do it properly? And is there a mindset that, oh, it's only the tenant? I think that's got to change as well. You want the tenant to feel that the property is their home. And they feel secure around there. They can afford the rent, of course. And you want the tenant to look after your property. If I want to go and see my property and do an inspection, I want to be able to go and get access. I don't want to see that it's being sublet on Airbnb. I want to have access, and that's where the agent comes in as well. But being a tenant is really, really challenging, and I think the Renters Reform Bill will assist them. I think because, look, without tenants, we're not going to be here. Tenants drive the industry because you can't rent a property. So I think the balance is there. As to politically how that changes when Labour get in, I think that could change. I think the industry is worried that there's going to be rent caps. Supposedly that's not on the table, rent freeze and stuff like that. So I think being a tenant is really challenging, and I think the affordability is an issue. Tenants are having to move out. Can you imagine being a tenant and do an open house viewing and there's another 30 tenants there? I spoke to a tenant. I was doing some training for Winkworths about a year ago at their head office, And I spoke to one guy, he was from the Clapham branch. They had over 100, this was a year ago, mind you, it's levelled out a bit now. They had over 100 tenants looking for one property.
Amazing.
For a landlord, it's great. But for a tenant, it must be really demoralising. So that's really tough.
Final question. What's it like to be a letting agent at the moment?
What's it like being a letting agent in 2024? Well, you need to, expenses have gone up across the board. Okay. Unfortunately, as a letting agent, you can't put your prices up with on par with obviously what your price is, because it's a really, really competitive market. Because agents are really scared about putting their rates up because they're going to lose it to the other eight agents on the high street. It's really, really challenging. I think that there's got to be a real focus on marketing. Clever marketing. I think the use of AI is actually really important when it comes to lead generation, how you deal with old leads, engagement, profiling your landlords. Chris Watkin, he's my landlord. How many properties has he got? What's his property journey? Do you do reviews? How often are you calling them? You know, is there some stickiness? Can I help you? You know, I think, you know, trying to find more landlords to chat, and that's why I'm getting busier and busier after to go into offices and help pitch and talk about trying to find new landlords in the local area.
Paul, that's been truly amazing. Thank you for your insight.
Pleasure.